Welcome into the 95th episode of the Sabremetrix podcast. My name is Bill. Alongside me, as always, is Walt. Walt, how you doing today?
Oh, doing pretty good. Looking forward once again to talking about the Sabres.
Yeah, it's been a couple quick games since we last spoke. It was a live stream before the Anaheim game. Did some smack talking to a certain forward that potted a couple goals that night. That didn't feel too good. But look, they got the win against Anaheim. Wasn't necessarily pretty at the end. Another, you know, heart is in your throat kind of situation there at the end, but they got the win. And then unfortunately against Florida, dropped that game. But Walt wanted to get your thoughts on both those games as a whole. If there's anything that stood out to you, anyone you wanted to shout out, just anything you thought about those two games.
Yeah, I think like the Anaheim game, I thought they just generally played some great hockey. Like, yeah, it did get a little bit sketchy there towards the end, but I mean, they still managed to pull away and win that game. I thought it was just another great game from the Sabres against a team that, we mentioned in the live stream, a team that's reeling. That Ducks team has lost a ton of games lately. So that game at home is a game you'd like to see the Sabres win. And they did win that game. So, I mean, that was huge for them. And then, the Florida game, uh, it was kind of similar because it's like that Florida team, you also maybe want to beat them because they also have a lot of injuries. I mean, sure, they won back to back cups, but it's not exactly the same roster that won those back to back cups. I mean, you're missing Barkov, you're missing Kachuk, you're missing some big names there. So, I mean, that team still played that playoff style hockey against the Sabres. I feel like that was a pretty physical game. I felt like a lot of passes that work for the Sabres usually just coming off the wall, trying to get it to the middle of the ice, trying to funnel pucks towards those dangerous areas. Like, I feel like the Panthers were reading that a lot
Mm.
that game. So the
Yep.
Sabres kind of had to come up with a new game plan there. And we even saw that second goal. Like Tage had to pretty much work around Reinhardt. And then once he beat Reinhardt, that's how he was able to find that space. So they needed plays like that to try to get in this game. And in the end, they lose that one, but I didn't really think it was a horrible effort from the Sabres. I thought they had a solid game, maybe could have used like an extra save or two, but I don't really think, you know, I wouldn't put too much of the blame of that game on Ellis. I thought, it was a tough physical hockey game. Like, it's the NHL, you're not going to win all 82 games. Sabres have won 13 in their last 15, so I feel like it's unrealistic to expect them to win every night, but I thought they put up a solid effort.
Yeah, I think on that point specifically, that's something I mentioned earlier in the season, or maybe you have as well. Of look, those kinds of games are going to happen. You played well, it's kind of neck and neck, and the other team just beat you. Like that is going to happen, and that's why it was so upsetting that they had such a poor start to the season. Because yeah, last night would have been great to win, but again, they do get some grace. Their second loss in I believe 15 games, so they get a little still a pat on the back. It's like, look, that was a good effort against a good team. It was disappointing they did lose to a team that didn't have Kachuk, Marchand, or Barkov. Not going to have him all season, but not having him was a little disappointing. But at the same time, I did want to before I go into more on the Panthers game. It's not too much, but the one thing that stood out to me, Anaheim game, 22 blocks for the Sabres, and I believe Anaheim had 7. I mean, that's you're selling out for the team there, and that's believe was that might not have been the game. Was that the game that Norris took a couple blocks? No, I believe that was last week. They're all kind of blurring together at this point. But
I mean, he's
basic
done it a bunch this year.
yeah,
So,
that
like,
leads me to
yeah.
my point. Like everyone's kind of doing it this season. Most of the time it's Malenstein trying to like throw his face in front of a shot or something like that. But everyone's getting in on it, and that's good. Kind of I guess you'd say playoff hockey, but the Sabres are really engaged in it. And then to the quote unquote playoff kind of hockey, they play Florida last night. And yeah, I mean, hard fought. Kind of wish, one, maybe another goal doesn't go in. Kind of wish, who was it, Doan finishes in the third period when everyone got excited thinking he scored. Even the light went on. One thing that I wanted to note and then get your opinion on, the one thing I wanted to note was Ellis wasn't the best, and he's just more of like a stop the puck and then scramble for it, where, other goalies are more like trap the puck and it's a little bit more, I guess, like calm or a little less chaotic. Um, I think who was it that even compared Ellis to in the the mold, not comparing him to, but saying, like, stylistically a little bit to, like, a almost like a Tim Thomas. He's gonna stop the puck, and it might not look pretty, but he will stop it, but rebound, you're really gonna have to be all over, and we did kind of see them get bit on that 3rd goal, and I know Power's taking some heat for not tying up a guy, but
Yeah.
kind of a
I
mad
mean, I
scramble
don't
in front.
yeah. I don't know how, like yeah, like that I think it was that 3rd Panthers goal. Like, I don't know how any Sabres defenseman could have predicted where that puck was gonna come out underneath Ellis. He should have had that covered up, and
Yeah, you should have
yeah,
had
I
it
mean, that
covered.
yeah, like, I mean, that's exactly your point, like, in a season like this where, every game, every point matters, like, giving up goals like that are just killer, which is why I think it's been awesome for the Sabres with Ellis has put up some solid performances, but it's nice to have guys like UPL and guys like Alex Lyon who've been
Mm,
really just solid, like, the past I mean, really just since the start of December, so, yes, it'll be interesting to see how they handle this goalie situation because they have a back-to-back coming up,
yep.
and, I don't know if it makes much sense to play Ellis in one of those games, like, you kinda hope Lyon's ready for one of those, but
Yeah, that's the like, do you play line? Actually, I will say the one thing I will say about the power thing is just like, yeah, maybe you want him to tie a guy up or box someone out or something like that. But um, another topic I will get into, but I think it might have been a little bit of fatigue. And when you make a mental error, you kind of fall back into old habits, and we know that's an Owen Power habit that isn't great. But he's done a lot better with it too. So I think it might have just been a second of fatigue and just a mental lapse. But yeah, when it comes to the goaltending, I'm I'm really not confused, but curious to see what the Sabres do because what do you do just for these next 2 games? Do you play Ellis against Philadelphia so UPL can take Montreal the next day, or do you play UPL and then give Colton Ellis against Montreal? Do you hope Lions in there? I don't know how they would make it work. Do you call up Devin Levi for a game? I personally wouldn't, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there. What do you, I mean, if you had your decision for the next 2 games, we'll just stop it there. What would you do? And then there is one more thing about the Panthers games I wanted to ask you about, but for the next 2 games, what would you do goaltender wise?
that's so tough because I think if Lyon's not healthy I just think that 05, oh 06 I know coaches aren't supposed to care about, like, special events or stuff going on in the arena, but I just feel like you can't trot out Colton Ellis during the 05, oh 06 reunion game because if he
Yeah.
lets in some goofy stuff, that game could get ugly real quick, and, I don't know. Yeah, because you can't call up Levi at this point, so you really just yeah, I guess give Ellis, just the Wednesday night game. I guess that would make the most sense, but it's also kind of it doesn't really make much sense because he wasn't great last game, and Lindy likes rolling with the hot hand, so I
He
don't know
wasn't
what they're
great, but
gonna do.
he wasn't terrible, and he's
Yeah, he
giving you
wasn't
enough quality
terrible.
starts, like but this could be also it's like, "Hey, we're gonna give you 1 more, so we have UPL fresh, ready to go Thursday night, have a great time," kind of thing. Plus, I think UPL, if I don't have it up in front of me, but I'm pretty sure his statistics at home are way better than on the road, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. Um, but that could be the final straw for Ellis as well. It's like, "Hey, we gave you this game. It didn't go great. It wasn't terrible, but we gave you another one. Here's a vote of confidence." And you let up 5 against the Flyers, and we lost 5-2. Like, "Hey, man," like, now when Lyon comes back, it's a little bit more, I guess, easier to waive him, but at the same time, there's been injury kind of bug plaguing the goalies the entire time too, where having 3 goalies was really only annoying for, like, 3 weeks total, and then I think
Yeah.
Ellis went down, and then Lyon goes down, and it all just kinda works out that way.
It's just like a domino effect too because, I mean, Devin Levi hasn't been that great in Rochester this year, at least to his standards, but,
Yeah.
like, if you have to call him up to be a backup, I'm not worried about Levi's development that much. I'm more worried about, like, Linonen's been down there, he's been, pretty bad in the AHL. I mean, Scott Ratzlaff's been, like, alright, so I think if you take Levi out of that Amerks team, you're rolling with 2 rookie, North American professional goalies, so
Yeah.
I Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do because I do think like they're eventually, once these forwards start becoming healthier, have to figure out which two of the three goalies they're going to keep. And right now, it just feels like every time they have to make this decision, like a new injury pops up and they're
Yeah.
safe from having to make a decision. So yeah, it'll just be interesting to see what they do because Alex Lyon, I'd imagine he'd be the guy that would probably get the most interest for NHL teams just looking for a goalie because he's a proven NHL veteran. May not
But
be a
you
full time starter, but could fill in.
but you still have your own playoff aspirations and hopes to go with it, and I think that would be kind of like a
Yeah,
shot at the locker room basically saying like, "Yeah, but we're gonna recoup on this because we don't know if you're gonna make
yeah.
it or not."
Well, it just seems
And
like they trust Ellis so much, which I don't really know why. There might be some statistics, but I just feel like they're not going to give up on Ellis. So I'm just saying, like, just from what I think the Sabres will do, like, I feel like Lyon would be the guy I'd see them move the most at this point if they really like Ellis.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't really have the ideal for me is just Lion UPL. I'm sorry, Ellis.
Yeah,
Hopefully they can waive you and you don't get claimed. I don't think I personally believe that if they waive him, he does get claimed. And it's also one of those things where you just know it. The second they finally pull the trigger, all right, Ellis, putting you on waivers. Then next day he's claimed by St. Louis or whatever because I don't know, they're trying to get rid of Bennington or they can't find Hofer.
he's going to
He's
win
still
like the
hiding
Vezina
somewhere.
next year somehow.
Yes, and then the second that happens, UPL is going to go down with an injury. Next thing you know, it's Lyon, Levi, and then those guys like you just mentioned down in Rochester. So, oh boy, I think who was it? Might have been Fairburn or something like that said this morning or on a recent episode of basically saying like I think they're going to try to look for more of a permanent solution and goal over the summer. And I'm like, that's sounds good to me. As long as I can stop talking about three goalies starting next season,
Yeah.
that'd be
I
great.
mean,
So
there's so much story left to be written this season, but with how UPL's played in December, like he's been playing like a top
encouraging.
10 goalie in the NHL.
Yeah,
I know
that'd
the
be fun.
Anaheim game got a little ugly towards the end, but
Yeah.
I think he had like two goals saved about expected like 4 or 5 games before that Anaheim game.
Yeah.
Like he's just cooking right now, and he had a rough start to the year, but he's been playing really well down the stretch.
I mean, we've seen like he earned his contract from getting hot, and I would hope that's the same. And I don't know. I think once they get the 3 goalies back, though, that could really mess with his mojo and his flow, so it might be one of those things
Yeah,
where it's like they have to do that for, like, the mentals of all 3 of these. No one likes it. Every single person has admitted this is not ideal and they don't like this, yet it still keeps happening, mostly because the guy keeps getting injured, like, the second he's ready, they're ready to go back to 3 goalies kind of thing, so it's worked out, but no one likes it, so fans don't like it.
yeah,
I
because
don't like
like
it.
I mean, I that's the thing. Like I know I always complain about the three goalies, but I'd almost rather have just like quantity rather than focusing on one quality guy. Because I mean, we've seen like I don't know, just like Jacob Markstrom, like as an example, or
Oof.
even other goalies where a team like is commits to one guy, like this is our guy, this is our number one. It's like there's maybe like two, three goalies a generation that are like elite year after year. You can't really just get like the seventh best goal in the NHL any given year and be like, yeah, this guy's going to be top 10 goalie the rest of his career. Like, it just doesn't work like that. So it's almost like the three goalie situation is not terrible because at least if one guy's playing awful, they have
They have
another
yeah,
name they could call on. But
and then
yeah,
if
it'll be
someone gets
interesting.
injured.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. Like, honestly, I have no idea. Like, if I had to predict who their two goalies would be opening night next year, I wouldn't even be able to even put forward an educated guess at this point.
That's that's gonna be a very interesting topic to talk about in the offseason. It's gonna be, adding a forward, maybe, if a defenseman leaves or something like that, it's kinda solidifying there, but goaltending is gonna be a big one, and I'm kind of with you because goalies are so if there was, like, a formula for goalies, it would already be used. No one freaking knows, dude. Everyone's just trying
Yeah.
their best, and like, I hope this goes well for us." So, I'm sorry to bring it back, but one more thing about the Panthers game, just because it got a little bit of run, the lineup change. What did you think about Dunn coming in for Ostlund?
Well, I think it directly ties back to kind of what we talked about in that live stream. Is that fourth line they just can't score goals, and they get scored on it. Like their goaltending hasn't been good, so they can't shoot. The goaltending's bad when they're out there, and I thought, we got a kind of a display of just that fourth line going out there and not really doing anything. Like it was cool to see Dunn get in a fight and everything, but I think I'm sure there's injuries now, but I do think like when injuries clear up, I think Sabres had a talent to roll for like genuinely good lines. Like I think we saw that with the 0506 Sabres, where they weren't afraid to throw like Pominville and another young guy on like the fourth line with like Gossett as their center. I just think if you do like Ostlund with two pure fourth line guys, you're not getting that offense. But if you put one pure fourth line out there with two guys that can produce offensively, I think you can get more out of that fourth line. And that'd be something when, the injuries clear up, I'd love to see moving forward because, yeah, it's just like when you're down a goal in the third, you hate to throw out a line that can't get you that goal. I just think you need all four lines to be able to score if you want to compete in the NHL in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, I understand wanting to bring an energetic physical presence, but with those guys, it could just be a mentality thing because I do agree with pulling out Ostlund for a game, letting him sit for a second. There's
Yeah.
a lot of games coming up this week anyway, so that he's probably not going to be the only person you're like, oh, he's scratched tonight. Oh crap. So that's probably not going to be the only person going through that. Plus, we also saw what Florida is willing to do and what the NHL is willing to help them out with, essentially over the
Yeah.
weekend when Verhaeghe destroyed Zub. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, Zub, up in Ottawa. Destroys him
Oh,
from
yeah.
that super dirty hit. They call a 5-minute major, and then they reduce it to a 2-minute. And I'm like,
Yeah,
how
that's
does that
crazy.
happen? The circumstances need to be incredible for that to happen. Personally, I thought he should have been out of the game. I've been hit like that multiple times, and the place just goes quiet, dude. It's a scary
Yeah,
that's a
that
scary,
should be a
scary.
suspension too. Like,
Absolutely.
it's
What
crazy
we're
that
gonna
it's just a 2 minute.
reduce
Yeah.
to 5? That's incredible. So, I'm okay with throwing in Dunn for Ostlund in that situation.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying Ostlund is scared. He doesn't really necessarily play with fear out there, but, he's just not big enough yet kind of thing. So, I understand it. Hopefully, he comes right back in. Maybe he takes someone's banged up or something like that. He takes their spot, but I hope it's not a recurring thing because if he's going to sit, might as well just send him back to Rochester, let him get some like big minutes because he hasn't played big minutes with Buffalo for a little bit. That'd be good, but lines were what they were today. I don't really want to dig into it. I'm going to be interested to see. I guess this is coming out Wednesday morning, the 14th. So I'm interested to see what the lines are today. If I'm talking Wednesday before the Flyers game, so I didn't have a problem with it. Hopefully, it's not something that sticks around too long. But there's so many games in so many days. It's a jam-packed schedule, and unfortunately, I hate to say it, injuries might creep up. So if Olsen sits for a game, I would assume he's probably going to get in. If it's not Wednesday, definitely for Thursday. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it. I know it just kind of brought up some conversation, and I didn't really have a problem with it too much. The whole sending him down for 3 goalies thing. I didn't necessarily like that, but for if
Yeah.
you're gonna sit him for 1 game and you're gonna choose Florida as the game you're gonna sit him against, I'm like, That's fine." I understand Kachuk and Marchand weren't out there, but it's still I mean, like I said, we saw it over the weekend, dangerous hits, so I'm okay with
Oh,
that.
yeah,
Alright.
they'll have some, like, random fourth liner coming in, like, elbow him that got
Yeah,
called up from, like, their
yeah.
AHL team.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, and then next thing you
Yeah.
know, Dalton Smith's walking through the door. Anyway,
Yeah.
um what do you wanna talk about next? I'll give you the choice. I'm usually the one dictating this. You wanna talk about the power play, or do you wanna talk about the Sabres making a new hire?
I mean, I guess we could touch on the power play first.
Okay. The one thing that is not getting touched is the back of the net on the power play because the Sabres can't fricking score. The last time they scored a goal, it went off like Jason Zucker's like neck or back or
Yeah.
whatever it was. Yeah. So not great. What do you see as the problem? Is it personnel? Is it philosophy? Is it both? Is it just circumstance where they have good opportunities, the puck's just not going in, and basically bad puck luck? What do you see is going wrong with this power play?
Honestly, I mean, I truly think they're getting unlucky. Like, I know I sound like a homer right now, but I generally don't think their power play is terrible, and I don't really think the personnel is the issue either because you really have every single player archetype you'd want on a modern day NHL power play. You have the snipers, you have the physical guys that could go win pucks, you have the Bensons who can like screen the goalie in front and fight through traffic. You have the Rasmus Dahlin, who's probably the best, if not one of the best playmaking defensemen in the NHL. So yeah, I really don't think the personnel is the issue. I think the chances are there. I do think they've been extremely unlucky lately, and I do think it's an element of their game that will just improve with time, hopefully. And I also think too, like I mean, now they finally kind of like stabilized with injuries, but like earlier on in the year, like you could tell it was just kind of a chemistry thing. So it felt like at least one guy that's on that top power play unit or even power play two was out almost every game, and it just rotated which guy was out like every week or so. Now they're finally healthy, and I think they're generating chances, but I really just think the puck's not going in for them, and I think eventually it will start going in for them on the power play.
Well, they had a 5-on-3. Oh, geez. Again, the games are all blurring together, like, worse and worse somehow. What was the game that they had the 5-on-3, and it was just terrible, and I'm like, "Alright, we have
Yeah,
a serious problem." Like, I try to be an effort defender, I'm like, "This is getting hard to defend. This is not looking great," and, like, if you say it's, puck luck, I'm inclined to, believe your thoughts on that, but I don't maybe changing up, like, Tage constantly in his spot, maybe that just needs to change somehow, or we'll get into some individuals, but maybe, bumping Dahlin off it for a little bit just to kind of let him maybe get a little less ice time, a little less pressure out there for, just kind of where he's at right now. And we'll get into that. So I
yeah. I
don't
mean, it will
really have
be
much
interesting to
to do.
see like what they do with the assistants, like because like you brought up like Appert, like it will be. I mean, probably not this year, but like next year, like they're
Yeah.
definitely they're probably not only looking at like being like, oh, that this power play is unlucky. Like a lot of NHL like coach evaluation for that stuff is like very cut and dry, and it's like you're just not scoring goals. It's not good enough because
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, expected goal models, I think, especially on special teams, can be very imperfect at times. And I think we're kind of seeing the inverse of that, like with what's happening in the Sabres power play with the Sabres penalty kill. Like the Sabres penalty kill, expected goal models are showing him giving up a ton of high danger chances, and somehow the goalies are just saving everything. So I think there's like stuff where the expected goal models don't perfectly pick up certain opportunities in close. I think there were some like articles I saw throughout this year that show that. So it could just be something like that. But yeah, I do think like with all these hockey guys they're bringing in, which I guess we'll get to next, like it's hard to imagine they'll be carrying back the same assistants next year if they don't get actual results in terms of actual goals on that power play.
Yeah. I mean, there's a question for every single coach next season because what happens with Lindy, and then I would assume there's probably a trickle down effect. You know, Matt Ellis
Yeah,
might not be hanging out in the press box for much longer, or Marty Wilford might not be running the defense for that much longer, or Appert, or whatever. So that's another thing, along with goaltenders and forwards and maybe defensemen. Definitely looking at what they do behind the bench this offseason. So I don't think anything's going to change now. Hopefully they get some better puck luck and maybe just a little bit more movement, a little bit more chaos, a little bit more what the heck's going on here for the defense, because seems like they've kind of closed in on Thompson. That shot really isn't much. Like, when was the last time you remember him blasting one on the power play like he has in years past? So something's got to change. I don't really have the solution. Maybe do you have like a preferred 5-man unit you would put out there if it's different than what they've been using? Is there like, this is who I would try before we move on to other topics here?
I mean, honestly, I think their personnel's been fine. I think they have like every player archetype you need for
Okay.
a successful power play. I really just don't. I really just think it comes down to them just not being able to finish.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, finishing is something that, at least going into the season, I was worried about. You got rid of Paterka. There goes some goals out the
Yeah,
door. You haven't brought him haven't really brought in goals back. And yes, Josh Doan's been great, and I'm not, not trying to make that comparison, but the finishing, the ability of finishing is something that it looks like they have too. Thompson, Norris, big shots, stuff like that. Dahlin can score from the point. So I really hope
Yeah,
opens up for him, because it could be the thing that sinks their boat. I hate to say it if it continues on this trend.
yo, I think the difference this year though is they're generating so many like expected goals that the finishing can take a hit, and they'd still be so much better off than rolling back last year's team where you just have snipers shooting from far outside. It's not going in. They're not getting back on defense, and then you're screwed. Like at least the danger they're generating. You got guys like Doan who I think's only a bad finisher because he gets so many high danger chances. Like I think that's the only reason why he underperforms expected goals is because he's always in those dangerous areas. And I, I think I'd much rather have this Sabres offense where they're able to get the puck to the net rather than the 22-23 team where they kind of had to rely on purely playing on the rush and hoping that a guy could snipe it bar down versus like this version of Sabres hockey we're seeing now.
Okay. Going to be interested to see how their power play performs, and see, what you're saying, if that, proves to be correct, going forward, until maybe the Olympic break or something like that. Let's just keep an eye on the power play. Obviously, it hasn't been good enough, and I really hope it isn't the reason they, don't make the playoffs. That would be unfortunate. Or if goaltending starts to tank, or even like the power or the penalty kill, they just kind of start getting scored on more, and you can't make it up on the power play. 2 points turn into 1 point, 1 point turns into zero, and that's how you can start to slip away. So hopefully that's not the case. Again, they're what, 13-2 in their last 15, so they're doing something right. But really would like to see the power play improve. But that is just a small piece, small little snag in their overall game that's been very good, and they deserve a lot of praise. And I think we've given them plenty, but there's always spots to improve. And speaking of improving, the Sabres have improved their pro scouting. Today they announced they hired a pro scout, Stacy Roest, at least that's how we believe it is pronounced. From 2013 to 2025, he was with the Tampa Bay Lightning. During that entire time, he was their director of player development. And then starting in 2019, he became their assistant general manager, also the GM of Syracuse, their AHL affiliate, very much like a Carmanos in that sense. He also took on that role as well. So this is another guy where you look at Bergevin, previous GM, comes in. Now he's like an assistant GM. Here's another guy that was an assistant GM and a director of player development. Now he's coming in. He's a pro scout. These are guys that have some pedigree coming in. I'm not going to act like I know much about this guy, but that fact of like, look, he was with the Lightning during a lot of their success. He was a director of player development, and they were able to develop a lot of, not, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th overall pick. I think this is a really good move for him. Another experienced guy in the room, other opinion, especially pro scout wise, finding that, useful talent, whether it's analytically. I'm not sure if this guy is much an analytics guy or whatever, but I've said enough. That's kind of his background. I think it's a decent hire. Walt, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I think it's a great hire, especially it's kind of interesting to see him take like a pro scout job, and he was a guy that was rumored to be in the
Yeah.
running for the assistant GM role with the Islanders. So I, I think with this Sabres team, I mean, with how we've talked about them in the past, with ownership, kind of meddling in hockey decisions, I think the more like actual hockey guys you can get, like guys that have a decade plus of experience on teams that have made it to a Stanley Cup or won a Stanley Cup. I think the more you could drown out, that potential pressure from ownership, and the more that ownership just hands over keys to the hockey guys, I mean, the better off this team will be. And I think this hire, kind of further proves that this team is moving to the direction of letting hockey guys make hockey decisions. And, you know, I mean, just not having to rely upon your assistant coach like giving his input on whether or not they should trade for a guy, or like your AHL coach or whoever. Like just not having to do that and be able to look to your pro scout who was an assistant GM on a team that's won the Stanley Cup twice the past few years, that successfully ran a AHL team, the Syracuse Crunch, that's pretty good year in and year out
Mhm.
on, a franchise that doesn't have a ton of high draft picks. So uh, I think,
Trade them all.
yeah, I just think it's a great move, and I kind of look forward to seeing, kind of how his role evolves with the Sabres, because it does seem interesting that he's taking on a pro scout role rather than like a higher end role. Like he's not really that old. It's not like the guy's 75 and is trying to like settle down and retire. Like he was playing like pro hockey like just like 20 years ago. So uh yeah, I think that's really the big thing for me is I'm just looking towards the future and being like, wow, I think the Sabres team is actually finally letting hockey guys making hockey decisions, and it's refreshing to see, and I think I'm very encouraged moving forward, by both the Sabres on ice performance and as well as the moves they're making in the front office.
Yeah, the front office moves, I mean, paying dividends in a sense. It could be, next week with Yarmo making some kind of big move, but I think years down the road we'll be able to look back and, this guy, and it depends on how much we actually know about what these guys are doing and, how involved they are with certain things, but it's not like an instant like a player. You get a player and you can see on the ice, I'm like, okay, this guy's a good player, is a good pickup or whatever. Front office guys, you might not know for a few years. So
Yeah,
I'm interested to see where this lands in the next couple of years, and especially obviously I've said it multiple times already, but starting this summer, how do they go about things? Even trade deadline, are they asking Terry, hey, can we trade Yoki Haru for a fourth? Is that cool with you? Yeah, that's not it doesn't sound like that's gonna be happening, so
yeah,
I'm interested to see how they not only how they run things, but honestly, how, like, the Sabres, like, embedded team kind of frames things because they know.
yeah.
They know we wanna what we wanna see, which
It's
is
just,
none of Terry.
yeah, I think those videos is crazy. Like thinking about, I mean, even the last with Yarmo and like the upcoming ones, like how different they'll be than just the episodes this past off season. Because I think before, I mean, I brought it up on here a bunch of times, but I always thought it was crazy how there were people in the Sabres front office and they were like rumored to be interviewing with like some other team for some role. And every Sabres fan would be like, oh, we have to promote this guy so they don't leave. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, no one in the Sabres organization has ever won anything. Like, people are celebrating a Rochester team that didn't even make it to the Calder Cup final with a
Yeah.
bunch of first round picks and good prospects. Like, I don't know. I'd much rather bring in guys like Stacy Roest who, have won stuff, have been a part of winning franchises, that know how winning franchises operate, rather than, celebrating these small achievements as Sabres fans of like good prospect development where a guy turns into exactly what they're supposed to be when they're drafted. Like I'd rather, have someone, that's able to come in and just, knows kind of what the day-to-day operations of a successful NHL franchise looks like. And I think with the guys they've hired, I mean, Mark Bergevin, obviously, he's a bit of like a controversial character amongst Montreal fans, but at the end of the day, he still helped that team get to a Stanley Cup Finals
He did
one
something
year, and
right.
yeah, he still helped them make it to the playoffs a bunch of times. And
Mhm.
Yarmo too. It didn't really make it that far in the playoffs, but he turned around a Columbus team that was, I think, was in much worse shape than the Sabres franchise is now, and he took it over. Like that was a Columbus team that they didn't have like those older teams they could point back to as a model of success. Like it was literally a new organization that's never won anything when Yarmo got there, and he made it kind of a respectable organization. I mean, he's even able to sign a big free agent like Johnny Gaudreau before he departed from that organization. So yeah, I just think I really like the direction their front office is moving in, and I think it's really encouraging to be a Sabres fan now. And I definitely didn't think the switch with this would have been flipped like mid-season or not even mid-season like it was
Yeah.
this year. But we get a great head start for this upcoming off season. That's going to be a very important off season for the Sabres, like make it to the playoffs or not. this next offseason is going to be a crucial one.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to just kind of breaking that down, and whenever the Sabres season ends, hopefully late June or whatever. Um, but it'll be
Yeah,
really exciting to just kind of see how they go about things. My thing I keep going back to is I don't care what you think about Yarmo or Mark Bergevin. You might think they're good. You might think they're great. You might think they're excellent. You might think they're terrible, which I disagree with. It's better. It's better.
yeah,
It is better than what it was. It's a good first step. And yeah, I understand. If Yarmo and Mark Bergevin were that good, they would have been GMs elsewhere already. And like, yeah, sure, you can say Yarmo's a GM now, but like, you know what I'm trying to say. It's still better. It is still better than what it was. And look, that's what we wanted. Now, could they, could we maybe say like, look, that's still not to the standard of what we need? I guess that's not really where I'm going to pick my fight, but I'm trying to throw a bone out there. But it's better, and so just be happy with what we have right now. And look, if judge them appropriately. They make a couple really bad moves, and you're just, what's going on here? Be honest about that. I don't agree with that. I don't think it's a good move. They make some good moves. Be honest about that too. So, um, at some
anyway,
point,
it's
we
literally
will talk.
been it's been like 13 years honestly since they've made any hires like relatively close to like getting high profile guys from other NHL teams or high profile front office free agents.
Would
I
you
think it's been like 13 years.
Would you call Botterill, like, high profile? Because he was one of those guys that was, like, kinda like a hot shot. He was
Yeah.
mentioned a decent bit. I don't wanna say high profile, but, like, he was sought after. It made sense why you would
Yeah, like yeah,
bring
he's
him
someone that
in.
was like in the mix, but I think someone like Mark Bergevin who left like a front office in Los Angeles where, he knew a bunch of those guys, and it's like this guy
Yeah, but
was willing to, come to a Sabres team where because I'm just thinking about the Sabres like image kind of around the league, especially when Bergevin decided to come to Buffalo. Like you don't
way
really
better than it
last that
was.
long in Buffalo. So to get all these guys to start coming in here, like they have to be believing in some type of vision uh, with this Sabres team because or they're just paying them more money too. But I mean, either way, it's a good thing because that was a problem with the last front office was that Kevin Adams was like pretty much the lowest paid GM in the league. He was the lowest paid GM in the league when he became the GM of this franchise. So either way, I mean, I'll take it as a Sabres fan. Either they're spending money or they're getting guys that believe in the vision. But either way, at least we're a normal NHL franchise again. Like at least our only hires aren't guys out of the junior ranks and guys that wore a Sabres jersey at some point. Like we're getting guys that have decades of experience in the NHL to kind of right the ship with this Sabres team because that's really all they need at this point. Someone to right the ship and let this franchise write its story like a normal NHL franchise for the next 30 years and not have to worry about another like 15 plus year drought.
I'm still on the Jeremy White thing where he basically called the 0506 night like a job fair. I
Yeah.
still kinda want that. Be like, "Hey, you wanna come be an advisor? Wanna come hang out? We'd love to have you,"
Yeah, I
kinda
mean,
thing. So,
I'd
still do
do
that.
anything to bring on Paul Gostad as just like a face-off coach or something, face-off
That
specialist.
wouldn't be terrible, yeah, I mean, he was good at it, and, guys like Ostlund, if you really want him to be a center, he's gotta get better at that, so,
Yeah,
hey, I mean,
just
do it.
just fly him in, just fly him in for a few
Oh,
days a
man.
year.
Yeah, that'd be wild. Yeah, that's a good way to collect a paycheck. Alright, let's talk about some individual players. It's not gonna be like, we could be throwing around a lot of praise. I think a lot of people already know who we would be praising, your Domes and Byram's playing really well, but, some other players really aren't playing well or just having a tough season for whatever reason, or they're just something we need to talk about. Rasmus Dahlin. I'm gonna speak my piece and I'll let you go. I think this is just who he is this season for very obvious reasons of all the things that are going on off the ice with him. I think it's really mentally draining, and that is something that can, affect you physically. Really tough schedule this season, as you know, jam-packed schedule. Going to the Olympics as well. With all of that, he's taken multiple different, I guess, quote unquote leaves. He did just miss one game after Christmas, but like this is who he is this season. It hasn't been great, but he's also not killing you out there either. He's been all right. He's not the Dowling we know, but this is just who he is, and I think we just kind of need to accept that. I've seen some people like, "What's going on?" "What's his problem?" Like, he really needs to play better, and yeah, sure, but I think this is one of those situations where it's like, "Look, he's not killing you. He's giving you some good minutes. He's a leader on the team, and the team has good vibes going, so I'm really not gonna beat up on Dahlin much this season. We know what's going on, and it's just bigger than hockey, and look, someone might say they're paid millions of dollars to perform. Sure, I guess you're technically not wrong, but I'm just not gonna do that. I don't really think I've heard anyone even say that either, so I might have just thrown that up for no reason, but what are your thoughts just on Dahlin as, like, a whole this season? Are you kinda like with me where you're like, "Just play your best, get through the season, hopefully have a good Olympics, and hopefully you can get back to some family in the summer and reset."
I mean, I think he's gotta be elite, and I think he can be elite this year too. I think he was elite,
He still
his
can be, yeah.
first yeah, I think his
Sorry.
first few games when he returned from Sweden, I thought he was elite. I mean, when he returned from Sweden the first time.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of funny 'cause he's playing incredible and the Sabres are losing a ton of games, and now they're winning a bunch of games and he's going through like a rough stretch. So, what makes you think if he starts playing well again, the Sabres team is even more dangerous? But yeah, I do think he's someone that's been kind of a little bit unlucky. But yeah, his underlying play hasn't been necessarily at the same levels. So yeah, he's someone where, I still think he can be elite for this team. I do think it's coming for him. I just think I mean, he really hasn't had to be elite the past few games.
No,
Like
he
maybe
really
that's
hasn't,
the issue. Like he really hasn't had to put on a cape and take over games for the Sabres because they've been up like 1-0 after the first 3 minutes. It feels like almost every single game. So I mean, I'm still confident he can bounce back this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still confident he can, but I'm not going to as long as he's not detrimental out there and he's still playing
Yeah.
kind of like how he is. It's solid right now. It's not Dahlin-esque in the elite, but I still think he can get there too. Who knows? Maybe the Olympics breaks. How it would be great. I don't know if it would be possible, but his fiance, I believe it's still his fiance, we were able to, go to the Olympics and see him there and have her be in the stands. Maybe that would be really great too. And he comes back from the Olympics and, he kind of plays like he did those first couple games when he came back from Sweden. Because agreed, he was very, very good in those games. I just
Win a
overall
surprise gold medal too. I feel like that Swedish team is a little
sneaky.
overlooked.
World
I
Juniors
didn't think it
and the
was.
Olympics? Ooh,
Yeah.
baby Sweden. That'd be nice.
I mean, they almost took down Canada like first game in the Four Nations. That was a pretty evenly matched game, and I think they beat the U.S. team as well in the
Yeah.
regulation round. So
Yes.
yeah,
They did,
I
right?
think they're
Yeah.
not. Yeah, I just think they're a team that's really not talked about, and Leo Carlson I think's taken the next step this year. I
Yeah,
think
he's been
he could
pretty
be a
good
true
for
number
Anaheim.
one center.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think they can win a surprise gold medal in the Olympics.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely talk about the Olympics as it's coming up. We do have some episodes to air before that. Hopefully they finish the locker rooms because I saw a video of those recently, and whoa boy, they don't even have,
Yeah.
drywall up yet, so interested to see how that works out too, but there's definitely some Olympics talks we can get to, but yeah, final word with Dahlin is, not gonna hold it against him this season. If you want to, go ahead, but, he's not a detriment. He's been a good leader for the boys, and, yeah, I'm really glad that it sounds like there's no question about, like, if he wants to stay or, team plays better, you're not gonna have those questions, but, glad that's kind of off the table. Obviously, he's dealing with stuff that's way worse than just rumors like that, but, yeah, hopefully he can kind of get back to form and, play the way that we've seen him before, and I'm sure he will get back to whenever it is. Next is another defenseman, Michael Kesselring. I'm gonna let you speak your piece, and then I'm gonna go on my little mini rant. So anything that you wanted to mention about Kesselring and just like the injuries and stuff? This is more for me to talk about. I didn't really brief you that we would be talking about him, but just kind of your overall thoughts on just his season overall and the injuries and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think he's really fit in the Sabres system so far, and I also think it's because he's barely played any games
Yeah.
for the Sabres so far, and it seems like right when he has a chance to get in a groove, he's hurt again. So yeah, I really just think it's a tough set of circumstances for him this year. And I think there's a bit of a ceiling on his overall game. I do think there's some stuff where he needs to dial it back a bit and kind of simplify what he does out there. But there's obviously stuff there that could turn into a good hockey player for the Sabres, but
Yeah.
he just hasn't had enough game time and enough, consistency overall to make much of an impact for this team so far this season.
I'm almost at like this season's a wash for him because the injury was he hurt his knee in preseason. That sucks. And he's come out and said, like, I've never dealt with a long-term injury. That was like his first time. New city, new team, probably feels like crap because he, wants to impress everyone and he knows he was a big part of that trade. He's come out and said it himself. Then he had a high ankle sprain. And then he re-aggravated it. And that's where he is now. Now he's back on the ice and hopefully going to be coming back soon. Do you really think he's 100% coming back? Absolutely not. He's not going to be 100% this season. He's just going to try to tough it out. And again, he knows he's someone that was a huge part of that trade. And luckily, Doan's paying dividends like crazy. And shout out Kevin Adams if you want for that trade. But um, I just with Kesselring, I can see he battles in front of the net. You've seen it before. Some stuff isn't great that we've seen out there, turnovers or whatever, but you've seen it in the highlights from Utah. The movement and his size, and he just doesn't have that right now, and he's not going to. High ankle sprains for hockey players, good freaking luck, dude. High ankle sprains for any athlete, good luck. Hockey players, top of the list, towards the top of the list because that is such a big part of just your normal skating stride. I'm sure he's not even skating normally. And again, he's not used to it. Different environment, different team, all the expectations he's putting on himself. I do feel bad for him again, making millions of dollars, stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't really want to judge him too harshly for how he's played this season. He just hasn't been healthy since training camp. He didn't even get a normal training camp. I'm not saying that would have been super helpful, especially if he was going through all the injuries this season that he's going through now, but it's better than not having one, and he didn't really have one. So I don't know. The Kesselring thing is when he comes back, like I've seen it. There's certain passes he'll make. You're like, oh crap, that was pretty good. He battles. He's not. Doesn't shy away from stuff. And again, sometimes it doesn't look pretty, like you mentioned. Sometimes it doesn't look like he necessarily fits. But I'm almost like, just try to get through this season. Let's run it back again next season. You're a 5-6 defenseman and go from there when you're healthy. So that's my opinion. I really don't want to give up on him at all. I don't think anyone necessarily is, but I really want to speak his piece and try to defend him a little bit because like this is an all-time crappy season for him, obviously. So those are my words on Kesselring. Hopefully some people agree, or if you disagree, let us know. Just try not to yell and scream at me. What else? Is there anyone else specific that you wanted to bring up? We could talk about maybe like talk in the contract, or I don't know, maybe some other guys that they could possibly think of moving on from, Quinn or Greenway, stuff like that. We could start praising dudes. Samuelson, you're a freak. Bowen Byram, great to see him not have to rely on Dahlin because that's pretty much all we chalked him up to. Geez, anyone else? Metza and Bryson are really playing decent as well, which is a pleasant surprise. Happy for him. But
Yeah, like I do think like with the defense now, it looks like when Kessler returns, like his home's going to be on that third pair with whoever, probably Bryson they decide to keep in there. Because I mean, you're not going to split up
yeah,
Byram and Power at this point. They've been dynamite for the Sabres.
yeah.
Pretty much this is tail end of the win streak and like the 5 games out of the win streak. And Samuelson, Dahlin, that's a pair they seem to trust a lot. So yeah, I think Kessler when he returns, I mean, he'll obviously be eased into that role because there won't be crazy expectations of him. He'll be a third pair guy for the Sabres when he's healthy again.
And let's also talk about those top 4 defensemen because they're playing a ton. I mean,
Yeah.
and this isn't a condensed schedule. I mean, there are going to be you're going to be like, why didn't he cover that guy? Or why did you do that? It's going to be mental lapses. They're freaking tired, man. And they're going to be. And look, they're professional athletes. They got to try to work through that. I think this is a big time for how Lindy utilizes, pregame skates, optional skates, how he's resting guys, sitting Ostlund for a game or whatever. Maybe who knows who sits next game, and they maybe have a little rotation going on in there. We have to remember Jason Zucker had that really, really bad virus. He still might be coming back. They might give him a game off or something like that. Strength and conditioning coach, new guy came in. That's going to be really important as well. I just, I don't know. I mean, I'm glad to see that Matthias Samuelsson can keep up with all these minutes, and we know Dahlin can. Power, again, I mentioned earlier this episode, he might have some, I guess, quote unquote, own power, I guess, weakness or not tying guys up or some kind of mental lapse. And Byram as well, who seems to be dealing well with it very much, but they're playing a lot, dude. They're playing a whole lot. Is that something that worries you? Because I'm glad that you're getting from the minutes you are getting from Metz and Bryson. They're playing well, but they're playing maybe 10 minutes a night. That's you kind of wish it was more like maybe 14 or something like that. Any thoughts on that?
Yo, I mean, I just think Sabres are kind of blessed to have, guys like Byram and Power on the second pair because I was thinking about how much worse it could be if they didn't have
Oof.
those two and they're out like two of their regular top
Oh,
six defensemen already. So I just think, yeah, Sabres are kind of blessed right now to have, a true top four. So, I mean, luckily you're not playing like one guy like 30 plus minutes a night, like Quinn Hughes or some of those other guys you see. Like at least they could break it up a little bit. And yeah, man, I do think like they're probably one other injury away in that defense from it really becoming a problem. I think
agreed.
they only had three of their top six, and you have Kesselring battling lingering injuries, and you have Timmins who broke his leg or foot, so he's out
That
for a
was
while.
that was such a freak. Sorry to just I've been thinking about that though. Such a freak accident. He like clipped his leg with Greenway and just breaks his leg. Like that sucks, dude.
Yeah,
That
yeah, like
sucks.
that's yeah. So I mean, like defense. I mean, yeah, because like we were talking about injuries earlier, like goaltending. I mean, Lions will be back soon. They could afford like two injuries amongst their goaltenders and still be okay. Forward group. I mean, you have Isak Rosane in the AHL right now. You have Hellenius who can maybe come up too if needed. You have Kozak who's slowly returning back to the lineup. Like you could
Mhm.
afford a lot of injuries in that forward group probably, but that defense right now, I mean, with
Same.
Kesslering and Timmins out for a while, uh, uh, yeah, that's really not an area where you can afford another injury. So
I mean, if you are any team and your top 3 defensemen go down or something like that, like you're in trouble no matter what. But you can kind of see with the Sabres, they don't trust Zach Jones, obviously. He would have gotten game time
yeah,
at this point. And yeah, maybe they don't want to disrupt like what's going on now, but like, look, if they trusted Zach Jones, he'd be playing and he's not playing. Same thing with Ryan Johnson. There and yeah, sometimes Lindy does like the handedness thing, but no, I mean, like if they trusted those guys, they'd be playing. Just the way it is, you know. The doesn't matter our opinions on the players. This guy should be playing. Well, they're not. So the coaches don't trust them. So that's another thing that the defense core is worrisome. It's like one injury and you have Metza or Bryson in your top four, and
yeah,
it's not sustainable. So um really glad they're playing well in the roles that they're playing. Like that's like if you put them in the top four and they don't play well, like what are you going to do? Beat them up for that? No, that's not their role. Like that's not what they're supposed to be doing anyway. So yeah,
yeah. I
I
mean, they're
mean,
just two really smart hockey players, Bryson and Metz. So like, they're not really they're
they
not
don't
guys
mess
that have
up.
like those physical gifts, but they're just so smart. That's the reason why they're in the NHL. Because it's really difficult to make it to the NHL, playing the game on defense at their size. There's only a
Yeah,
handful of defensemen that are their size, but I mean, we've seen it throughout their college careers and even like their AHL careers too. Like these are just really smart hockey players. And I just remember watching Bryson doing
yeah,
that Frozen
Providence.
Four. I think it may have even been in Buffalo too, but he was like brilliant out there for Providence, like that entire Frozen Four.
I'm pretty
So
sure. I'm pretty sure it was in Buffalo. If I remember correctly, it was like Providence. Was that when Ron Rolston came back or whatever, and he was wearing his goofy gloves?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's like
it was
UMass too was in the mix.
yeah, something like that. But they're just they move really well. They don't look. They're not going to blow anyone up, but like they're not shying away from contact. I watched Metza take a heavy hit, but he took it, made the play, and just kept moving. I'm like, oh crap, okay, cool. They don't mess with the puck either. That's a good thing. So, they're responsible, and that's what gets you trusted by an NHL coach. So, trying to think of anything else. That's pretty much it. that's a longer episode than we were expecting to. And again, this is coming out on Wednesday. So if you made it this far, we appreciate you, but it's coming out on Wednesday before the Flyers game. So looking forward to that. I didn't mean to kind of like break down their schedule coming up, but I think a lot of people are kind of hearing that from others as well, talking about it. So
So a
I'm
lot
sure
of
everyone,
games and
just a
not a
lot
lot
of
of
games.
time.
I mean, I'm excited. It's great for me, great
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah,
great
it's
for
great
the
for
people
fans.
watching. But it's look, the Sabres might have some lapses here, might lose a couple games in a row or something like that. So they can't let it. Part of this leadership, though, is they can't let that skid go on 3, 4, 5 games. You have to nip it in the bud. You really do. So that's what I'm looking for. It's like, look, if you're going to lose a game, maybe two, like not great, but how do you respond to that? So starts with 2 games in 24 hours and 0506 night. Um, let's end it, Walt. Your final word about the 0506 night. What are you looking forward to? Someone specific that you're really excited to see? What's your final word for Thursday night against Montreal?
Yeah, I mean, I really wish I was there because I think they're doing a few like autograph signings at like different tops in Western Europe throughout the week. I saw like Thomas Vanek, Jochen Hesch, like JP Dumont. I think Taylor Pyatt too.
Oh
Taylor
wow.
Pyatt would be a
Okay.
guy that I'd love to see. Mika Nornen, I'd do anything to meet that guy. And
Hey, remember
yeah,
the 3 goalie situation?
yeah, I'd say with me, I mean, the top three guys. If I was there, the top three guys I want to meet the most are probably Taylor Pyatt, Mika Nornen, and I'll go Paul Gostad. I was always a big Gostad guy.
Yeah, I like Paul Gostad. Mine's Maxim Afinogenov. It just
Yeah,
he's just such a stud, man. How can you not be like, dude, I loved you, man. Like you were such a fun player to watch. Yeah, Gostad and I'll go Mika Norton just for the funny, we're in a 3 goalie situation again. So yeah, really looking forward to watching that. I won't be there either, unfortunately, but enjoy if you are going. Have fun, stay safe. I think that's pretty much it for us here at the Sabremetrix podcast. We appreciate you listening, and we will catch you on the next one.